The number one use of tener is to talk about having something, like a house or a friend. This is the only use of tener that works just like it does in English. We'll get to 4 other uses soon, but first let's look at some examples of how this one works. In English, we say things like, he has a house, we have many friends, you have those things. So as you can see, we say has or have, and right after that is a noun that someone has. In Spanish, these are él tiene una casa. Tenemos muchos amigos. Tienes esas cosas. So in both English and Spanish, we use the verb for have, and then we put a noun after it. Pretty simple. But that brings us to the second use, which is when we say things like, I have it. In this sentence, I have something, just like we did before, but what I have is expressed with a direct object pronoun. So this kind of changes things for Spanish. When we use words like it, or him, or her, or them, we have to change the sentence around. Here are some examples. He has it. We have him. You have them. So what we've done is, instead of saying he has a house, we're replacing the word house with it. And instead of we have a friend, we might say we have him. And instead of you have the things, we just say you have them. Here's how those sentences would work in Spanish. Él la tiene. Nosotros lo tenemos. Tú las tienes. So we've restructured these sentences to put the direct object before the verb. We're still talking about what someone has, but when what they have is a direct object pronoun, it has to go before the verb instead of after the verb like we do in English. This is kind of tricky and requires a bunch of practice, so if you want to dive in and practice using direct objects with tener this way, you can go to SpanishVideoCourse.com, and we have hundreds of flashcards available for free to practice this. The third use of tener is to talk about obligation. We do this with the verb have in English as well. So for example, I have to do this, or she has to go there. So as you can see, we use have and has. And in Spanish, you'll use the verb tener, but you use it like this. Tengo que hacer esto. Tiene que ir ahí. So notice something about these sentences. The word que appears right after the verb tener. It's almost like we're literally saying, I have that to do this, or she has that to go there. In both the English and the Spanish, we're saying that someone's obligated to do something, but it's expressed slightly differently. This happens all the time in Spanish. We tell people that someone has to do something all the time, so this is worth practicing. The fourth use of tener is to talk about having a feeling. So most of the time in Spanish, to express that you feel a certain way, you actually say that you have a certain feeling, using the verb tener. So for example, in English, to say that I feel hunger, I usually use the phrase, I am hungry. But in Spanish, you use the phrase tengo hambre, which literally means I have hunger. As another very common example, in English, we say, I am afraid. But in Spanish, you say, tengo miedo. Literally, I have fear. And there are lots of other examples, like to say, I'm cold, you say, tengo frío. Literally, I have cold. There are all kinds of situations where you want to say that you feel a particular way, but in Spanish, you'll use tener and then that feeling. And then to wrap up, we'll talk about number 5, which is the group of idiomatic uses of tener. What this means is using the verb tener along with a noun, but in a way that wouldn't translate into English at all. We'll talk about the most common 5, and the number 1 by far is tener razón. So this literally means having reason, but it's used to mean that someone is right. So in Spanish, you never say you're right, literally. Instead, you say you have reason. That would be tienes razón. Or to say we're right, you would say tenemos razón. Another very common one is the word culpa. You'll use this to say that something is someone's fault. So to say, for example, it's their fault, you literally say they have the fault, or ellos tienen la culpa. The third one is one you've probably heard before, cuidado, which means care or carefulness. So being careful is typically tener cuidado. Here's a fun example. You have to be careful. tienes que tener cuidado. So this is fun because it's an example of using obligation, but also this idiom, tener cuidado. That's why tener appears 2 times in this sentence. Another very common idiom is tener suerte, literally to have luck. So to say she is lucky in Spanish, you'll actually say she has luck or ella tiene suerte. And then the final idiom I'll give you is one you probably know, and that is to talk about age. To say that someone is a certain age, you don't say that they are that age, you say that they have that age. For example, to say he is 5 years old, we say tiene 5 años. All right, now it's time to practice. You can drill yourself with all of these uses of tener using our free course at SpanishVideoCourse.com. You'll get instant access to 250 step-by-step lessons covering the top 1,000 most common Spanish words, which make up about 80% of the language. We'll give you crystal clear explanations, built-in quizzes, and thousands of real-world examples, all designed to help you master the patterns of Spanish in the most efficient way possible. And yes, it's all 100% free. Just go to SpanishVideoCourse.com or click the link in the description of this video, and you'll be mastering core expressive Spanish in no time. Meanwhile, subscribe to this channel for more grammar and study hacks that'll get you speaking Spanish fluently faster than ever.